Hi, new to Christian or clean fantasy, or are you just trying to find more clean or Christian fantasy? Well, you tapped on the right video. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am Jamie and I am the Kansan Reader. For those of you who don't know, about 4 years ago, I became born again Christian, and I had to revamp my reading that would be safe for me to read as a Christian. And I have always been a huge fantasy reader. It's just one of my things. I love fantasy. And so trying to find clean or Christian fantasy was a little hard. So I made a list of recommendations of both clean and Christian fantasy that I have personally read and loved. The very first one that we're going to talk about is the Tethered World Tethered World Chronicles by Heather L. Fitzgerald. The first book is called The Tether World. So, normal means different things to different people. For 16-year-old Sadie Larson, family dynamics look a little different than most. Parents with oddball occupations? Normal. 5 homeschooled siblings, one with autism? Normal. Police knocking on the door and parents gone missing? Definitely not normal. When Sadie uncovers the reason behind her parents' disappearance and the truth about her heritage, she despairs of ever feeling normal again, especially when she learns that her mother's interest in Bigfoot, dwarves, and other lore extends beyond her popular blog. Sadie's family has been entrusted with keeping the secrets of the Tether World, home to creatures that once roamed the Garden of Eden. Sadie and her siblings must venture into the land to rescue their parents, stepping out of reality and into a world she never knew existed. Is a journey Sadie fears and resents, but she chooses to risk all to save her family. She's just not sure she'll survive in the process. So this is a Christian fantasy series. The 4th book was released last year. It's the only book in this series that I have not read. But as you heard, there is a sibling with autism, so we do have some representation with that, as well as homeschool representation. When I come to a series, I'm mostly going to be showing the first book only because you may not like that series or anything. So I'm just going to be recommending the first book to let you guys decide whether or not if you want to actually really go into that series or not. I would definitely give Tetherworld a shot. I was trying to find, there is a scripture that she loosely based this off of, and it is in the book of Revelations. I will try and find that scripture and let you know right here. The next book on the list is The Winter King by Kristen Cohen. This is a Christian middle grade fantasy. It is a standalone, so if you are searching for more standalones, here you are. Synopsis goes: a village trapped in winter, a tyrannical god, and a girl who will do anything to keep her family alive. Finalist for the 2020 Christie Award in the Young Adult category. Ever since Cora's father disappeared through the ice, whispers about her family's curse have grown increasingly louder. Desperate to help her mother and siblings survive another bleak season in the Winter King's frozen grasp, Cora begins to bend and even break the rules she has kept since she was a little girl. But when she discovers a secret that's much bigger than herself, she realizes too late that she has put herself and those she loves in even greater peril. Wintry and dangerous, but hauntingly lovely, The Winter King is the debut novel from the author Kristen Cohen. So, Yes. I actually absolutely love this. If you're looking for a nice little, well, I wouldn't say cozy, but if you're looking for a nice wintry read that will make you literally feel the cold outside, definitely check out The Winter King. This next book is not a Christian fantasy, but it is a clean fantasy, and it's another standalone. So there, again, if you're looking for more standalone fantasies, look no further than The Heir and the Spare by Kate Stradling. I have read many Kate Stradling books. This is probably my all-time favorite of hers, and I think this was the second that I read of her books. An evil princess, a ruthless persecutor, a wretched match. Tormented at home and bullied during her studies abroad, second-born Iona of Wesset hides in the quiet corners of her father's castle. Her art and music provide refuge, but her cruel sister, Lezen, ever lurks like a monster stalking its prey. Such has been her life for 20 years. However, a promise of reprieve and retribution arrives when the neighboring kingdom of Capira proposes an alliance between their new crown prince and Wesset's heir to the throne. The treaty will rid Iona of the toxic Lezen, and the potential groom is none other than the erstwhile bully Jovan of Dirival. Sorry, I can't pronounce words. Just fair warning. The marriage could not be more poetic. Each deserves the misery of the other might inflict, except that Jovan, humbled by the war that elevated his rank, appears to have reformed, and the fate of both kingdoms now hinges on the disastrous union he's about to make. So, just fair warning, there's a big trigger in this with Lezen. She is evil and she is very violent towards Iona. And you get like what is that word that I'm thinking of? It starts with an R. Recounting? Maybe that's it. Recountings of her during the whole period when Lezen would be completely violent against her. And then you find out that she is sent over abroad on her studies, in which she then gets bullied by Jovan. I don't even know if I'm saying that. I don't know if I am saying his name right, but he becomes her new tormentor, and then he later finds out that, the person he's supposed to marry, her little sister, is the person he has tormented. But I won't give any more away other than that. But this was another great world building, amazing writing, and I think this has, more than anything, one of the better character developments that I have read by Kate Stradling. Again, it is my favorite by her. Probably one of my favorite covers of all time. I am saving up to get the physical copy of this book. If you have followed many Christian booktubers who have read fantasy, you've probably heard of this book. It is one of my first Christian fantasies I've ever read after becoming a Christian, and it's probably one of my top favorites. Another book I am saving up money to buy a physical copy of, and that is Heart of Red, Blood of Blue by Rebecca Bilston. I think that's how you say her last name, Bilston. A girl on the run, a kingdom to save. Princess Gisela of Steinland was born without color, albino. To add to the curse, her betrothal to Prince Jarek of Kronga think that's how you pronounce that, Kronga, ends in his death and starts a 10-year war her father is determined to win, even if it means bringing her out of hiding to do it. Now, the savage Krogan war commander, Bloodless Kristoff, seeks the hearts of the entire royal family, especially Gisella's. Desperate, her father agrees to another alliance that involves her marrying an old brute of a king. Unwilling to be the sacrificial lamb, Gisela goes on the run. Thrown into the center of a battle between three kingdoms, she finds herself fighting for her life and the right to be truly loved. Can a girl who started the war find a way to end it? Again, one of my all-time favorites ever. I really, really want to do another reread of this, but I want to wait till I have the physical copy to annotate because, I just can't wait. And if you heard, she is an albino, so we got some more representation there. I'm not going to talk too much about it because, like I said, if you've been on Christian BookTube, you've probably heard of this book many times. This next book is a clean YA dystopia. It is called The Rejected King by Courtney Cassell. I have read Courtney Cassell's other books, which are her more rom-coms. This is a fantasy or a sci-fi, whatever you want to describe dystopian under. I think that's under both. It can be categorized under both. But anyway, I absolutely have loved this series. It is the Desolation series. There is only 4 books. I kind of wish there was more because I really loved the world. So, of course, this is dystopian, like I said. And it says for here, perfect for fans of the Selection series by Kiera Cass. I've only read one of those books and I wasn't the biggest fan of that, but be swept into a world of political intrigue, forbidden love, and royal romance. The king hired her to find him a wife. She fell for him instead. Marriage is the only thing that can save King Davin's most hated reputation. And to make things worse, Davin hired the one girl he's most attracted to, but her social class makes her an impossible choice for his future. Emery Dutson has one goal: raise the king's approval rating so she can get a permanent job at the castle. Falling in love with the king wasn't part of the job description. Now her feelings for him are ruining everything. Will Davin risk his crown for love? So you follow different royalty throughout this entire series. It does take place in the United States, but the United States is broken up into, I think, 7 or 8 kingdoms. And that's why I kind of wish there was more books, especially the way the last book ended. I was like, oh, I really, really want more. But she has not released anything further that I know of. But again, this is a clean romance. I think this one is definitely a little bit more like the Selection, where you have like a pageantry of like the people to become the king's wife. This book is another clean fantasy. It's an enemies to lovers fantasy. Well, the first book is called Winter's Captive by Robin D. Millay and Ellie Madsen. This is the first in the Lachlan Treaty series book. Each book has a seasonal title. Obviously, this one's called Winter's Captive. The next one's called Spring's Rising, Summer Rebellion, Autumn's Reign. So each one has a seasonal title. So if you want to read this throughout the year and read each one in the seasons, you can. Again, this is probably another book you can put on your winter TBR. They thought she was a puppet they could manipulate, but the princess is no damsel in distress. Or at least she doesn't want to be. The black X of the Aramach marked the spot where Princess Charlotte's life was destroyed. Her fiancé was kidnapped by rebel insurgents, and war threatens to crumble her kingdom if he's not safely returned. Somewhere in the midst of her inner circle, traitors are plotting to prevent their two kingdoms from uniting. Deciding it's time to take matters into her own hand, Charlie storms from the castle on a mission to save her betrothed. But the obstacles are many, and her skills are few. Due to her sheltered existence, she knows nothing of her own kingdom or how to survive in it. But time is running out, the drums of war have sounded. Fighting against rebels and assassins, Charlie must find a strength within her she has never knew to exist. But will it be enough to bring her prince home and save her people from fighting yet another pointless war? This is amazing. Also, read these books in order. These are not the kind of books that you can read out of order. You have to read them in order. Also, it has one of the better character developments throughout the entire series. So while you might not get a ton of character development in one book, throughout the series you'll see a good arc. Charlie is one of the few non-Mary Sues, we'll say. She has to learn her skill, which I absolutely love in a book. I hate when authors write a female character who's just good at everything. We don't like that. We want to see a character grow throughout the series. So, highly recommend Lachlan Treaty. This has 4 books, and then it has a spin-off series, but read these books first, because the spin-off series follows someone after this time frame. I'm not going to say any more than that because it would be a spoiler, and we don't do spoilers on here if we can't help it. It is a Christian fantasy. It has 6 books in the entire series, and if you are on Christian BookTube, you've heard of this series before. And that is, the first book is Resistance, and the series is the Ilion Chronicles. So, this was one of those that, when I first found Christian BookTube, I found it through Celestia, and she recommended this series, and I went and looked at it. I was like, it sounds interesting, but at first I was putting it off, and then finally last year my husband chose this for one of my July reads, and I absolutely fell in love. Didn't know why I kept putting it off, and I completed the entire series within a month. And let's just say, probably hands down one of my favorites. I think I will definitely buy the physical copies for these, but I'm not fully sure, because I don't know if I will reread it. I might, though, because there's times where I'm like thinking about it, and yeah. Anyway, Resistance. Don't you know animals have no souls? Oh, that's just soul. Why did I put an extra S in there? Apparently, I just cannot read right. Could God ever love a half-blood all of society looks upon with such fear and disdain? Jace once believed so, but when a tragic loss shatters the only peace he's ever known, his faith crumbles as the nagging doubts he's tried to put behind him descend on his grieving heart. With them come the haunting memories of the blood-stained past he longs to forget, but can never escape. Taken from home at a young age and raised to serve the Emperor, Kirin Altier lives every day under a dangerous pretense of loyalty. Don't know if I said her name right, but after her unique observation skills and perfect memory place her into direct service to the Emperor, Kirin finds herself in further jeopardy as it becomes increasingly difficult to hide her belief in Elohim, the one true God. Following the Emperor's declaration to enforce the worship of false gods under the penalty of death, many lives are endangered, but there are those willing to risk everything to take a stand and offer aid to the persecuted. With their lives traveling paths they never thought, wow, I cannot read. With their lives traveling paths they could never. Why do I keep putting could in front of never? Never could have imagined Jace and Kirin must fight to overcome their own fears and conflicts with society as they become part of the resistance. Also, there is no magic in this series, so if you're one that tends to stay away from books that have magic in them, this is safe for you to read. And the only other reason I will try and have you sit down and read this is dragons. Do we need any more of a reason to read a fantasy besides dragons? This next book is more sci-fi than fantasy, but it is Christian, and I was very surprised how much I ended up loving this book. I've only read the first book, and I believe it is a trilogy. And that is The Chase by Bradley Caffey. The series is called Chase Runners. And this is another dystopia, but it leans more towards sci-fi than the first book that I said that was dystopia. That one does have fantasy elements, but this one's definitely more a nicer version of Hunger Games, if that sounds yeah. Anyway, win the chase, be the hero, or die trying. The chaos and anarchy following the Great Collapse nearly brought the world to its knees until the unchanging law brought order and peace. Generations later, the 12 alliances of the World Coalition come together once a year to allow their best and brightest young people to compete in the chase. The prize, a chance to pass exactly one new law. The son of two former chase runners, Willis Thompson, not Thomas, Thompson, is the top trainee in the Western Alliance with the expectations of the world and his heritage driving him. He leads the elite red team as they prepare for his moment to become a coveted law changer. Perrin Davis, the new leader of the blue team, struggles to survive as she competes as one of the designated losers. She knows that losing means genetic recoding, a process that cannot go on indefinitely, and longs to age out of her program before it kills her. When a mysterious new racer with knowledge of the outside shows up at their orbiting training center, the natural order of the Western Alliance trainees is upended. In a world where too much knowledge is dangerous, Willis and Perrin find themselves in a race to save their lives and uncover the hidden underbelly of the Peaceful World Coalition. So, like I said, this is kind of like a cleaner version of Hunger Games. At least the first book is. Not as much violence is what I mean to say. Now, if you guys have read The Hunger Games, you know that Districts 1 and 2 the kids grow up training to be in the Hunger Games. So, taking this, you follow Willis and Perrin as they are part of the Western Alliance, and basically it shows them training to be in the chase. And so you get that side of it. And then, of course, as it said, there is a new runner in there that does like kind of throw a wrench into how everything's supposed to be, because like this says, the blue team are the designated losers. And even though there are teams, there's technically only one winner of the chase, and that person gets to make a new law. And yeah, I'm not going to say any more than that, but I absolutely love this. I do have the second book, which is called The Choice, and then the third book is called The Change. I plan on getting to The Choice hopefully before the end of the year, but I do have it on my Kindle series. Are you a fan of fairy tale retellings? Because I absolutely am a huge fan of fairy tale retellings. And this book does like a little bit of a twist. I always love when authors do a twist to the classics. And this author does exactly that. And it's called Becoming Hook, a Villainous Peter Pan retelling by Mary Meekum. This is the first book in the Legends of Neverland. There are 4 books. I think the 4th one is getting ready to release or has just released. I am currently still on the 2nd book. I'm not currently reading it, but I have only read this first book. The 2nd book, I read a little bit of it, but I was not in the mood for fairy tale retellings, so I kind of put a pause on it. But this one is basically a Captain Hook origin. So with that being said, a pirate, a pixie, and a plot to foil Peter Pan. James Hook never meant to become a pirate and never dreamed that he would turn against his best friend, Peter Pan. Every adventure and eternal youth awaited them until a pixie exposes a shocking revelation. Tinkerbell's information forces James into acknowledging that, far from being the benevolent hero he painted himself to be, Peter Pan was kidnapping innocent children. After accepting the tragic loss of his hand and of the family he can barely remember, James deserts Pan. In the fight to rescue the lost boys, Hook will risk everything, even if it means becoming the most notorious villain in Neverland, or losing the fiery pixie who is stealing his heart. Can the original Lost Boy vanquish Neverland's greatest threat? I loved this. It was amazing. It was different, but it was kind of cool to see like the origins of Captain Hook. And if you're like me and love the Disney series Once Upon a Time, you might be visualizing a certain Captain Hook. If you catch my drift. But anyway, this book, I've only read the first book again. As far as I know, there's only 2 books in the series. But this can be read as a standalone, so there's that. A Starlit Prince by C.F.E. Black. Let's get into the description. To break his curse, he must break her. Talia's dream of avoiding marriage to her domineering landlord comes crashing to the ground the night her family's ticket out of poverty is stolen and sold by the wicked landlord himself. Now Talia will be forced to marry him and give up the future she's imagined for herself. until a mysterious stranger offers her a surprising bargain. He'll save Talia's family from the landlord's scheme if she'll marry the stranger that very night. Desperate for a solution, Talia agrees. As the sun rises, they are married, and Talia is whisked away from her safe, predictable life and thrown into a world full of magic and dark secrets. Talia soon realizes she may have thwarted her landlord's evil plan, but she stepped into something much more dangerous. As she uncovers the secrets of her elusive Fae husband, Raphael, she learns that his marriage to her was not out of the goodness of his heart, and to get close to him is to flirt with death itself. But the truth is so much more complicated than she ever imagined, and true love isn't something that comes easily. She must fight for it and risk losing everything. So this is a reimagined Spanish fairy tale retelling. So this fairy tale is based off of The Lily and the Bear, and it has huge Beauty and the Beast vibes, but we'll get into that later. This is a clean romance. I think I said that, but just wanted to reinstate. Clean romance, no spice, nothing than that. It does have a little bit of a darker theme, and it deals with Fae. So if you're not one who wants to read about Fae, this might not be for you, because you do go into details about the Fae. This is kind of a retelling, but it is not a fairy tale retelling. Her fairy tale retelling series is on this list a little bit later, but as of right now, we're going with her classic retelling, and that is King Arthur and Her Knights by K.M. Shea. You can get this as a completed book on Kindle Unlimited. That's how I read this, because the books are super, super short. I don't think any of them are over like 250 pages. There might be one. But there are 7 books in this series, and like I said, you can get the complete collection as one. The first one, if you want to try it out, is called Enthroned. Long live the king! When Brit, a modern young woman, is pulled by a magical summons back through time, she finds herself smack in the middle of schemes of the surprisingly young and handsome wizard, Merlin. Brit has no interest in the throne, and she definitely doesn't want to pretend that she is the legendary King Arthur, but Merlin has some bad news. The real Arthur has run off, and the legendary Sword in the Stone has chosen Brit to take his place. But Brit quickly learns that life in ancient Britain isn't safe. The kingdom is fragmented with enemies on all sides, and there's little chance for mercy if her real gender is exposed. Brit finds herself fighting for life again and again on behalf of her people and the knights who serve her, and Merlin only adds to the chaos of her new life. Focused on his goal to unite Britain, Merlin is oblivious of Brit's growing feelings for him, or so she thinks. But what future can they have in a world that only sees them as monarch and confident? So, I really, really love this. The ending is probably one of those endings that will forever stick with me. Just completely loved it. Yeah, this was a retelling of a story that I have no idea what actually the real story is, because I have yet to read, what is it, King Arthur? And what is the actual name of that classic? I have not read it, but I absolutely love this. I know basically the gist of what King Arthur is about and kind of know that Guinevere falls in love with like his best friend Lancelot or something like that, and some other dude comes up, kills him, and takes his place or something. I don't know. Either way, this has quite a twist on what we know about the basics of King Arthur, and it is quite funny, and I absolutely love Brit, and I really love when Lancelot comes on the scene. It's just gold. What can I say? Another fairy tale retelling? This one's Cinderella. This is Riches to Rags by Casey L. Bond. It is a clean fantasy. There is some violence in it, just fair warning on that. This is also a standalone, so again, if you're looking for more standalone, here you go. I absolutely chose this book by its cover. You can understand why. I mean, I know it's just a picture of a shoe, but it's done so beautifully. Anyway, I've read several other of her fairy tale retellings, and I think this one's probably my favorite, and it's also the first book that I've read by her, and I don't know, something just can't top this. But most girls dream of being princesses, but one princess just wants to be a normal girl. Ella Karina, crown princess of Ilani, knows brutality and lies. She's seen the way her father rules. Princess possession to her father. The words have the same meaning. She was only as valuable as the alliance formed with her betrothal. Her freedom comes from an unlikely place, an attack on the kingdom. Oh, castle. Why did I read kingdom? Attack on the castle. When the conquering king offers to protect her from the betrothal her father arranged for political gain, she consents. Hiding her within a peasant family is the only way to keep her and her secret safe. In this simpler life, Ella flourishes and catches the eye of the local blacksmith's son. For once, she can be herself and make her own choices. But the life of a princess, even one kept secret, was never meant to be easy. Trevor, crown prince of Galdir, has been searching for Ella, but not because of their betrothal. She is in grave danger from the very people who hide her away. His plan is to show her the truth and help her to safety. Nothing goes as planned. When Trevor finds her, it's to discover she's fallen in love with a peasant. Now he has two goals: help her regain her throne and show her that she belongs with him. Yeah. It's epic. Let's just say that. Is there a love triangle? Not really. I like Cinderella. This is a nice retelling story of it, but kind of flip-flops it. Instead of her going from a peasant to a princess, she goes from a princess to a peasant, and I like it. Next book is another sci-fi, and it is a standalone. This one is called Our Dark Stars by Audrey Gray and Crystal Wade. From what I remember, this is clean. I didn't realize how many fairy tale retellings I kind of put on this, but yeah, anyway. Sleeping Beauty meets Firefly in this fast-paced and addictive new sci-fi by USA Today bestselling authors Audrey Gray and Crystal Wade. While she sleeps, the whole universe changes. Princess Talia Starchaser has it all: wealth, status, adoring citizens, but on the eve of her 18th birthday, she's forced to publicly betray her best friend, a companion mock she's had since birth, setting events into motion that lead to the destruction of humans, the princess floating through space, a remnant of time when the humans ruled over droids. 100 years later, half-mock Captain Will Perrault and his ragtag crew discovers a device floating in space. When a very human Talia emerges from its depths, Will suspects she's the key to buying his way back into the regiment he once commanded against the last remaining rebel humans and the ruling Mock Queen's good graces. Both Talia and Will would rather get space tossed than trust one another, but with the Queen's forces chasing them across the galaxy and the fate of both worlds hanging in the balance, they'll forge the unlikeliest of alliances to survive. And as you can tell, it is an enemies to lovers situation. Like I said, from what I remember, it's clean. It deals more with, androids and humans, but if you like sci-fi, I highly recommend. Our final book on the list, I told you guys her other series was going to be on here, her fairy tale retelling series, and that is The Timeless Fairy Tales by K.M. Shea. The first book in this is Beauty and the Beast. I mean, why not start off with that classic? I would say read these in order of how she has them, just because I feel like you would get the best reading experience through that way. Once upon a time, Elle made a mistake. A small miscalculation sends her through the roof of an enchanted chateau. Stranded until her broken leg mends, Elle is unwillingly forced to rely on the goodwill of the sour chateau owner, the cursed Prince Severin. Prince Severin, the commanding general and staunch supporter of his brother, the crown prince, is cursed to look like a beast until a maiden falls in love with him. He has given up all hope of shattering the curse and has only disdain for Elle. Unfortunately, the pair can't seem to avoid each other thanks to the meddling of the chateau's cursed servants. Eventually, Elle's playful manners and Severin's hidden gentleness draw the pair together. But not all love stories can end that easily. After all, Elle is not what she seems, and Severin's life is placed in danger when hostilities flare between his brother and the monarchs of the neighboring country. When Elle risks everything to save Severin, will he be able to forgive her for her lies? I'm going to read this little part. It says, Beauty and the Beast is a retelling of the traditional French tale. It is a story of adventure and prejudice set in a fantasy land lush with magic, assassins, princes, castles, and curses. Filled with humor, deception, and clean romance, it belongs to the series Timeless Fairy Tales. The book in the series takes place in the same world and can be all read together or individually standalone books. Again, I am going to tell you, as reading the complete series as of, I think last year, I completed the series, and I think it took me about 4 years, I want to say, to complete this series. I could be misjudging that, but I want to say it's been longer, actually, because I think I remember starting these before I became a Christian. So there is that. Actually, Kindle has this annoying little thing. I read this back in 2016. It's been way longer than 4 years. Okay, as of was it last year or the year before? Hold on. Thank you, Kindle, for... There is 11 books in this series. I am so sorry. I'm trying to find them all. There we go. ending in another one of my favorites. So 2021. Wow. Has it really been that long? Anyway, obviously it's been that long. So going from 2016 to finally finishing the complete series in 2021, I will say read this in order. You will get the best reading experience that way, because there are little Easter eggs in each book containing to all the other books. So stick with the order that that is on Kindle Unlimited or on Kindle, however you want to look up the order. Stick to that, and you'll have the best reading experience. With that being said, this is the end of my Christian and clean fantasy recommendations. I have, I think, quite a lot of fairy tale retellings. I'm very sorry. I do plan on stretching out a little bit more on that now being a Christian, but so far these are the series that I can fully say that I trust, that are clean, or that are Christian, because you never know, something could be labeled as Christian and it's not. But with that being said, thank you for stopping by. If you've read any of these, let me know. If any of these really spoke to you, let me know. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!